Hello everybody, my name is Becca and today I'm going to be talking about 3 books that fall under the category of young adult literature. So the books I'm going to talk about is Judy Blume's Just As Long As We're Together, Jenny Han's To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and finally, That Boy by Jillian Dodd. I picked these books because they all have a lot of similarities. The main similarity is that they fall under the realistic fiction genre. So they're not true stories, but they definitely have situations and characters that are very realistic. It could definitely happen in everyday life. On top of that, all 3 of them are very feel-good coming-of-age stories that share themes of growing up and maturing. And on top of that, they also touch on discovering boys and falling in love. So all the things that go into young adult romance. Each of those books kind of has different touches of that. I also picked these 3 because I found that they were very similar, but the characters are all different ages. So young adult literature has a wide range of ages, and we get to see characters in middle school, high school, and kind of in that high school to college transition period. And they're all going through very real young adult situations and complications and drama. And so it's just really cool to see how they're all going through similar things, but they're all very different ages. So going into that, the first book that I'm going to talk about is Just As Long As We're Together by Judy Blume. And this book is told by Stephanie Hirsch. She is going into the 8th grade and she has her best friends by her side, but they didn't have the easiest time in this book being friends. And so you'll get to see a little bit of how they balance their friendship on top of their personal lives. Stephanie is going through a move. Her parents are getting separated. She's also starting her period. She's discovering boys. So she's going through all of those typical middle school changes that we all experience. On top of that, she's been best friends with Rachel Robinson since they were babies and they've lived down the street from each other. But now they're starting to see their differences. Rachel is a perfectionist. She's very studious. She's very, very smart, and she's in different classes than Stephanie because she's in higher levels. And so we kind of see those differences causing some complications in their relationship. And it's really tested when the new girl, Allison, moves in down the street and is similar to Stephanie. They become inseparable. And so Rachel's a little upset by that. Stephanie is still dealing with all her things. And so we really get to follow these girls and see how they're not only balancing their relationship, but kind of filtering through that everyday middle school drama and bullying and personal lives and things like that. So their situations are very realistic and something that I think everybody goes through. Even as a 26-year-old, I can easily relate to Stephanie. I think we have a lot of similarities. So I think this is a really good book if you are looking for just a relatable character and you're trying to figure out, maybe you're in middle school and you're trying to navigate how to go through a situation. This is an easy read and you can kind of see how they figure everything out. And on top of that, there is a sequel, and it is Here's to You, Rachel Robinson. So if you really love that book, you can dive right into the next one. So I definitely recommend that, or any Judy Blume book if you are on the younger side of young adult literature. So moving from middle school to high school, we are going to look at To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. And you probably think this sounds a little bit familiar, and you're right. If you have Netflix and you're a Netflix lover, this book was adapted into a movie, and it's actually one of Netflix's most watched movies. It's one of their most popular ones. So I definitely recommend reading the book before the movie if you haven't seen it yet, but both are very good. So the story is told from Lara Jean's point of view. She is the main character. She is a junior in high school, and she's just trying to navigate life. She's kind of gone through the awkward younger years, but she still has a lot to go through as a junior. And this year is about to get really crazy. So not only did she lose her mom when she was younger, and was raised by her dad, but she heavily relied on her big sister, Margot. And Margot is actually heading off to college in Scotland. So she's not going to be around all the time for Lara Jean. And Lara Jean does not fall into the popular crowd. So she always had her sister to rely on. And this year she doesn't have that. But she's still trying to keep positive. She has her best friend, Chris, and they get into some funny things and some tiffs of their own. But the big thing that happens is Lara Jean is a hopeless romantic. She loves 80 rom-coms, and she spends most of her time binging them. So it probably led to her writing love notes to every boy she has ever loved. But they were never sent until one day they actually did get sent. So there are about 5 guys that they all got sent to, but 2 make a very important appearance in this book. In fact, she has to create a fake relationship with one of them in order to make sure the other one, who is also her best friend and Margot's ex-boyfriend, doesn't figure out that she actually did really like him still. So she kind of gets into this fake relationship with Peter Kavinsky, and they hang out and they're doing all these fun things and they're getting to know each other, and emotions start to take off. So we really get to see Lara Jean and Peter kind of come into themselves, come into their character, and maybe start to fall in love. And so if that is something that you're really into, the good thing about this book, just like with Judy Blume, it's actually a trilogy. So you have 2 more books after. So it has a very good ending, but it's a cliffhanger. So you just have to keep reading. So I definitely recommend this one to any high schooler. The whole trilogy just really hits on things that you're going to see during your high school years. So it just has a really great theme, and I definitely recommend picking this one up, especially if you are really into romance novels, because Lara Jean is just a hopeless romantic, and her and Peter just really hit it off. And finally, we're going to be talking about my favorite, and that is That Boy by Gillian Dodd. And this book also is told by the female main character, and that is Jaden, aka JJ, and her 2 best friends, Philip and Danny Diamond. JJ is very competitive, she's spontaneous, she's fun-loving, and she's kind of a tomboy, and so that's why she gets along really well with Danny and Philip. Danny's most similar to her. He's very equally competitive. He is kind of the troublemaker of the group, and they always just get into a lot of fun with him. And Philip kind of balances everybody else out. He is very studious, very respectful, not as spontaneous. So they make a good group. And something really special, I think, about JJ's character is that we get to see a death in her family. And we get to kind of see how she copes with that, and grows as a person. And as a character, we get to see a lot more and get a deeper understanding of her relationships, especially with Danny and Philip and their family. And on top of that, we get to see the typical fun, realistic high school and college situations. We see her go to prom, we see her get accepted to college, see her go to her first fraternity party, and things like that. So this book definitely has that very cool aspect. If you ever had to kind of deal with a death of a family member, you could very easily relate to the character of JJ. And again, if you're into romance, this is also a really great book. And if you want to see who she ends up with, you might not guess it right away. So it is also a trilogy that you can continue to read on as well. So looking at all three of these books, As Long as We're Together by Judy Blume, To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, and That Boy by Jillian Dodd, you will see that each book is very lighthearted. It touches on typical young adult situations and conflicts with characters that are so extremely relatable. From bullying to divorced parents, becoming a teenager, falling in love, and more. These books are a must read for young adults everywhere. So I hope that you guys were able to find one that really interests you. If not all three, at least just one. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you pick up a book today.